Good morning, traders. It is 8:01 a.m. Chicago time on Tuesday, the 21st of February, 2023. This is episode number 2414. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. So, welcome back. Yesterday was a holiday, President's Day here in the U.S., and we're back in business today. The market's selling off somewhat. Here's our, wrong screen. Sorry about that. Here's our pre-market summary sheet. Pre-market summary sheet from Convergent Trading this morning. You can see that the risk sentiment's mild risk off currently. And the NASDAQ leading the charge down 117 basis points or 146 points. The S&P is off 38 points. We are currently just below Friday's low. If you recall, Friday's plan was to open, test up, and then go down to 40.50, and it couldn't do that. It got to 40.55. And then ended up turning around and pushing the other way to 40.90, 40.90 being a key number that we've talked about quite a bit. And now 40.50 is gone. The low this morning's 40.47, and we're hanging out at the low. The point of control is at 40.50, really shifting the weight down to the low of the range. Interesting conditions here as we come into today's session. Copper's popping higher, 2.26%, and crude remains below that crucial 77 figure. Crude has really busted out and busted down from balance, and with a very strong initiative selling push last week, and tried to make a comeback but could not. Crude is pushing a little bit higher this morning. Again, 77 is crucial here. Europe is kind of sideways mainly. Europe was not closed yesterday. Pre-market, we had Walmart. We had Walmart, which is just, is gigantic. Q4, Walmart reported $1.71 versus $1.51. Revenue at $164 billion. It beat earnings by 13% and beat revenue by 3%. We also have Home Depot, which is another giant. Home Depot reporting Q4 $3.30 versus $3.28, so in line on $35.83 billion. Medtronic is another one that reported, among others. And then after the close, we have Caesars Entertainment and Univar. That's what's on deck. US PMIs due out. Let's take a look here. So that's 15 minutes after the open. We're looking for the global PMI flash, composite flash, expected at 47.5. Services PMI looking at 47.2. Canada reported on inflation. Canada beat inflation. The inflation figures that came in at 5.9% versus 6.1%. The inflation rate month on month came in at 0.5% versus 0.7%. And core inflation came in at 5% versus 5.5%. Pretty outstanding for Canada there. And retail sales in Canada, ex-autos were off 0.6% versus negative 0.1%. So that's what we've got. A slew of numbers. President Putin of Russia announced today that Russia is going to stop participating in the nuclear agreement between the U.S. and Russia. This is in response to President Biden conducting a secret visit to Ukraine yesterday and throwing more support towards Ukraine. Russia's responding to that. Here's what's important. Why can't I draw? here's what's important. Notice the rotations are going up. So this was updated on Sunday night. The rotations are moving higher. The impulses have moved higher. The ranges are moving down. Okay. But the rotations are moving up. So we have a little bit more volatility. The market seems to be expanding its participation to the downside. I'm expecting it to continue to push lower towards 4,000. Key support for the ES right now is 4,003, 4,004, and with expanding rotations, it kind of tells me that we are likely to push to the downside here unless there's some news that curbs that. Overall, the market is just concerned about inflation. As we saw last week, the inflation numbers were somewhat discouraging. In terms of the S&P auction, the S&P auction condition is in a multi-distribution profile, which means that the market is seeking value. In other words, it's in price discovery mode, which means that there's probably going to be pretty decent opportunity today, pretty good rotations. The volume's 244,000, which is higher than the mode. The mode is stated down below here at 220,000. So volume's in line. We have multi-distribution profile, and the inventory is 100% short. 100% short inventory. The range is 30 points, which isn't fantastic. It's about in line with what's most common, which is 31. So I'm expecting it to be a relatively I don't want to say normal because normal implies boring, but normally a relatively active session. Again, look for the manufacturing PMI flash, the PMI flash numbers at 9:45, 15 minutes after the open. And then we get existing home sales at 10. And then Biden is slated to speak at 11:30, but that's likely to be more political than economic. And then Lagarde at 2. Let's take a look at the charts. Here's what we've got. Now, if you recall on Friday, let's see, this is going to show you the wrong screen because for some reason it keeps forgetting that I have a monitor on the side. If you recall on Friday, we were here, and what I drew on Friday is it's likely to push up and then squeeze through the open and push into the 40-50. So I was looking for it to come down here, 40-50 on Friday. That's what I was looking for. Friday, it ended up doing both. The alternative was to push down, take out the overnight low, impulse up, consolidate, and then get up into the 40.99 settlement price, or 4,100, and really butt its head against the ceiling to finish sideways in the upper end of the range. It didn't quite do that. It didn't quite do 40.50. It didn't quite do 40.99. It did both, but not well enough. Kind of like when you tell your teenage kid to go and mow the lawn, and then you go out there and look at it, and it's done, but it's not quite well enough, right? And so I live in the city. I don't have a lawn. So this is what the ES looks like. The ES opened up right in here, tested down, up, and we had a nice opening swing here, broke the opening swing, which sets up a short trade. So we're looking for a pullback anywhere that we have a reference. Look for the short, break lower, look for 50, couldn't quite get there, got to 57, and then it crossed, it traversed the entire range to break the IB high. Then it traverses the entire range to break the IB low. Then it traverses the entire range to go to the IB high, through the IB high again, only to create what is basically a cup and handle formation here with a very clean setup for a break higher had it not run out of time and had we not had the weekend. But we did, and the market has reversed since. So it's an incomplete high here. This here is a relatively weak high. The top is incomplete. We had a double TPO high. Look at it. See this? Double TPO. The L and M period were both at the high. This is a weak high. You need to mark that as a double TPO high, as a key reference price. And then since then, we've basically gone sideways in yesterday's session while we're on holiday. And then we've been moving down since. So we've got a market that has attempted to push up and has come back, and it's very likely incomplete to the downside. Incomplete to the downside. So what does that mean for us? We're looking at it in a different perspective. We are below that 4069 low. We are below Friday's low. We are in this cluster. We have completely taken back this Fed move right here. The market has already priced in the fact that the Fed is very likely to go to 25 basis point hikes maybe for the next couple of sessions and then pause, which is great news, which got us up to 42.06 or whatever, 42.08, whatever that is. But here we are. We're back here. Why are we back here? We're back here as the market is unable to hold on to these higher prices. We do have some weak structure above us. We have a double TPO high, as I said. So that to me is a concern. The 4100 is very likely to be retested. Very likely to be retested. Not sure if that's today or not. Today we are way down here. But we are back into this balance structure. Before, remember when we went into the Fed, we were in this really awful 40.30 to about 40.90 range. And we're right in the middle of that. So we've moved from a balance cluster up here, 4100 to 4150. So let's call it 4160 really. 4160 to 4100 is a box that we've been stuck in for the last week and a half. Now we're in this 4100 to 4100 to 4030. So now we're in this box to 4030. Now, if we clear the 4030 and we find it tests for liquidity below the 4030 and it does not find liquidity at 4030, then we are very quickly likely to close these single prints all the way down to 4003, which is the next key support. So if it doesn't hold 4030, we have a run of about 25, 27 points. We want to check to see if it tests for liquidity below 4030 and comes back into the range, or if it tests for liquidity and continues, then we're looking for pullback to sell into the 4003 area. If the 4003 area doesn't hold, then we are back down to the 3990 zone, which is a high volume node down there. 3990 becomes the next key point of control price that we would check. This becomes the key target below. So that's the scenario. So let's recap that more succinctly. We are currently at 4050. That was Friday's target. Pretty high confidence target on Friday. It just didn't work. We're at 4050. If the market is responsive, it is very likely to squeeze back to the point of control of Friday, which is at 4060-ish, 4066, I think, 4067. That's right here. That becomes a key target once we breach back in. So I'm watching this morning, since we're out of bounds, by just a little bit. It's very likely to fill the gap and be responsive. The target here is 4066. We get to 4066, we consolidate, and then we start to lift. Your target is 4100. 4100 is expected to be formidable up there. It's expected to really hold price down. Okay, so we had those multiple tops, the double TPO high at 4090. So from 4060 to 4090, 30 points, another 10 points to 4100. If we push into Friday's range and push towards the 66, don't quite get there, maybe get there, but then fall out of the range, it is very likely to gun for 4030 from there. And then we're looking for liquidity below 4030 for a bounce initially, If the bounce doesn't come, then we have a runner to 4,003. So starting at 40.50, 40.66, 40.66 holds, 90 and 100. 40.66 holds, and it returns out of the range, gets below the 57, back to the 50. Probably going to go for 40.30. That will be the next key test area. If it does not hold the 40.30, if it doesn't check the 40.30, boop, run stops, get filled, return. If it doesn't do that, then it's very likely to trickle down into the 4,003. That's the key plan for today. That's what the price map is currently saying, and that's what the auction is saying. Now you go and layer fibs or MACDs or CSCIs or whatever you like, whatever moving average you like. That's great as long as you understand the map and the auction. Then you can layer your stuff on it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with having moving averages or whatever. Layer that stuff on it if it helps you see what price is doing or simplifies for you what price is doing. I don't use those products essentially because they have a look back period, 14, 20, 40, 120 bars, whatever it is. I prefer to see price and volume for where it's at, but that's okay. Now you layer that stuff on, and then if that helps you execute against the pullback or whatever, then more power to you. That's your plan. Okay. So again, that's the price map. You have to memorize these prices. You have to remember them and know them for when you're executing. The NASDAQ, same story. The NASDAQ opened, except the NASDAQ's a lot weaker. Was a lot weaker on Friday. The NASDAQ opened, and it really came way down, much farther than expected. 12,300 was supposed to be the target for the NASDAQ there. Value low on this balance day. The NASDAQ has tested below the 12,266 as well as the 12,243. So it's knocked these out. And then if the NASDAQ's not responsive right away, the NASDAQ's very likely to run down. Finally take out the Fed breakout, right? So we've almost cleaned up these single prints, and then the NASDAQ's very likely to move down into this next bracket. That bracket is at 12,000. So the NASDAQ would be gunning for 12,000 as the extreme of the next balance zone, which is right here, right? This is 12,000 right here. So if it does not go responsive, then it's likely to fall out of this box up here and get into this box down here, right at the bottom of where the Fed announcement came in. So if the NASDAQ takes out 12,200, 12,210-ish, if it takes out 12,200, then it's very likely to have a run to 12,000. You got 200 points there of range. If it's responsive, then I expect the NASDAQ to be trapped in Friday's range. On the extreme, if we do have a runner, I'm expecting the NASDAQ to smack its head against the ceiling at 12,500. At 12,500, it's not likely to get there. I expect it to just stall out at 12,400, even if it gets into Friday's range. So once it gets into Friday's range, you have a pretty decent run in the NASDAQ, but I'm not seeing it as the strong product right now on a relative basis over the last few days. Okay. Looking at crude, very interesting. Look at this ripper in crude, huge gap here. We attempted to fill some of it. We gapped up. We attempted to fill some of it. We fell off, and then we pushed higher. We closed somewhere in the middle. Crude is opening a little bit lower than Friday's value here, and I'm expecting crude to continue to push down. I'm expecting crude to fill all the way down into this weak structure down here at 74.80. 74.80 for crude. Speaking of crude, tomorrow I'm doing a webcast with Crudelli, with Anthony Crudelli, a Futures Radio Show, and Andrew from Traders Community. We're going to be talking about making money in oil. So if it's not a product you've looked at, you might want to start looking at it. It's been trading very well. Again, derivatives are not suitable for all investors, but if you're going to trade crude, please look at the MCL. It is financially delivered versus physically delivered, so you don't have to be ready to receive 1,000 gallons of crude oil if you get stuck long in crude through expiration. Trade the MCL, but tomorrow we're going to be talking about the crude oil and some of the things you need to look out for crude. And we're giving away, EdgeClear's giving away 4 $250 gas cards. You can get more information and register for the giveaway at edgeclear.com/deli. You have the link in the live chat as well. Again, edgeclear.com/deli. Don't forget to hit the like button and to subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber already. Subscription is free. It just sends you a notice for when the next live stream comes out. Please hit the like button as you're heading out. Thank you for your support. Take care.